everybody, and welcome to this special on the super full Beaver moon in Aries that happens on the 5th of November at 1:20 PM GMT time. Now I'm going to talk about, this current full moon and how it's influencing us. So the term supermoon in astrology refers to a full moon that appears larger and brighter than usual in the sky, and this is because the moon is at its closest point to Earth in its orbit. The supermoon is also known as perigee, and the combination of the moon's proximity, closeness to Earth, and the alignment of the Sun, Earth and Moon creates the illusion of a larger and more radiant full moon. So the term supermoon was coined by astrologer Richard Noel in 1979, and astrologically supermoons have increased effects on emotions, tides and spiritual energies due to their increased gravitational pull that the full moon being closer to us has at this time, and this can lead to a bigger influence on human emotions and behaviour due to the moon's closer alignment with the Earth. Okay, so the tag for this super full Beaver moon is Warrior Spirit, where it's a time of awakening and industrious, hard-working, courage, and having a sort of revolution in the way that you go about your work, right? So ultimately, this November's super full Beaver moon arrives like intense torch in the darkness, demanding we stand up, speak out, and claim our warrior spirit, whilst channeling this hard-working preparation energy of the Beaver. Right, we're going into the depths of winter, especially if you live in the northern hemisphere like I do. Well, I think I do. I'm sure I do. I'm sure the UK's in the northern. Anyway, so I've been tracking lunar cycles for a while, and I can tell you when the moon reaches her highest point to the Earth while sitting in the sign of the astrological warrior Aries, Mars energy, right? Mars rules Aries. During the traditional Beaver moon, we're witnessing a fascinating fusion, mixed union of fiery initiative, get up and go, starting energy, and practical preparation. We're going into the winter now, so preparing for the next 3 months while we're in this winter, making sure we've got warm clothing and all the rest of it, So this isn't just any full moon, it's an astrological call to arms, for action, wrapped up in the determined, resourceful energy of the Beaver during the time when nature prepares for winter's introspection, self-reflection, in the northern hemisphere, in countries that experience winter, because not all countries do, right? Not in the way that we can do in the northern hemisphere. It's nature's time of, the leaves are now gone, the trees that leaves the leaves growth slows down, so it's nature taking stock after, giving us all the energy for the summer, the spring and autumn harvest. Now, nature is recuperating, right? So, the super full Beaver moon this year happens with a T-square and grand trines, and the energetic frequency is fire, leadership, hard work, preparation, and pioneering in our spirit, starting new things, preparing. So the moon's at the 20th degrees of Aries, and this means, of course, the sun, because the full moon always mean that the sun and the moon are opposing each other, right? So the sun's at the 20th degree of Libra. So Aries first house, Libra 7th house, naturally opposing in the astrological chart as well. So in terms of the aspects that are being made, we've got the moon making a quintile to Jupiter, the moon making a semi-square to Neptune, the moon making a sextile to the moon's north node, and there's also a T-square involving the sun, moon and ascendant, and I'll go into the other aspects that are being made at this time in more depth, but those are the major one. And in terms of the Sabin degrees, as I said, the moon's at the 20th degrees of Aries, and that's the Sabin symbology is a young girl feeding birds in the winter, which is right, spot on. And then we've got Libra, where the sun is, and tagline for this Sabian energy is a Jewish rabbi, a Jewish spiritual leader, right? So, as I said, we've got quite a few complex transiting patterns, including a T-square at 22% tightness, a grand trine, which is 15% orb tightness, and we've also got a yard, which is 23 degrees tightness. So, the body parts ruled by this super full Beaver moon in Aries are the hybrid bone, which is what the moon is ruling, and the calyx minor bone, which is what the sun's ruling, right? So this specific super full Beaver moon in Aries is a release gateway for outdated people-pleasing patterns and claiming, standing up for ourselves, empowering ourselves and being authentic in the way that we take leadership in our life, and, doing so with hard working action. Okay, so ultimately, traditionally, the Beaver moon and its energy brings a fascinating counterbalance to the impulsive fire of Aries, creating what I like to call hard-working courage, the kind of bravery that builds lasting, whether you want to call it structures, routines, systems, rather than burning them down in the moment of passion. So it's all about lasting things rather than, short-lasting routines. It's about looking at what day-to-day habits do I need to do to reach my goals, whatever they may be. So the Beaver moon's traditional focus on preparation, resourcefulness, and building secure foundations, and as I said, it meets Aries pioneering spirit and wants us to sort of Aries energy is all about immediate action. The Beaver moon's all about taking time to slow down and prepare, right? So it's rather like having a master builder represented by the Beaver energy, possessed by a warrior spirit represented by Aries in this scenario, and the result is courage channeled through practical, lasting action rather than impulsive, dramatic, short-lasting action, right? So positively, we're getting the Beaver's incredible work ethic and the ability to create lasting routines, systems, combined with Aries' courage to start new things, and this creates the perfect energy for starting new projects and ventures, especially those that require both brave vision and sustained long-term effort, effort day in, day out, sometimes over years, sometimes over decades, right? So some of you may think about starting businesses, building homes, creating art that lasts, or starting new routines that will serve you through challenging times, and the Beaver's hard-working nature makes sure that Aries' brilliant ideas actually get built rather than abandoned when their initial excitement wears off, right? So yeah, it's all about follow-through, but negatively, Beavers are methodical and patient. They will spend months building the perfect dam. Aries wants everything done yesterday and tends to start 10 new projects before finishing one. So the challenge during this super full Beaver moon in Aries is learning to honor, respect both impulses, both energies, the fire that says start now, and the earth wisdom that says build it properly. The Beaver's influence on this Aries full moon transforms the typical release and let go energy into something more constructive and useful. So instead of just burning away what no longer serves, you're being asked to consciously deconstruct outdated patterns and use the materials to build something better. It's a renovation rather than demolition, taking what's useful from old situations and repurposing it into new routines that serve your authentic self. For lunar rituals during this phase, I recommend combining fire ceremonies with earth-based building activities. Write what you're releasing on paper, burn it safely, then plant the ashes with seeds or bulbs that will grow into something beautiful. Create vision boards, not just of what you want, but include practical steps and timelines that respect both the Aries vision and the Beaver's methodical, slow approach to manifestation. The meditation practices that work best during this time involve both movement for Aries and building or crafting activities for the Beaver energy. Try walking meditations followed by journaling sessions where you create detailed action plans plans. The Beaver moon responds well to meditations involving gratitude for your resources and visualizing the practical steps needed to achieve your dreams. So now I'm just going to talk about the lunar energies involved. So the sun energy in Libra brings diplomatic, no drama, low-key, peacekeeping wisdom to this hard-working warrior combination, asking us to consider how our brave new projects serve not just ourselves but our communities. The Libra influence makes sure that the Beaver's natural inclination to build isn't just about personal security but about creating routines and systems that improve relationships and promote fairness. The moon's energy in Aries provides the initial spark, vibe trigger and courage needed to start ambitious projects, whilst the Beaver moon's seasonal influence makes sure this courage is channeled through practical, methodical action. You may find yourself feeling simultaneously impatient to begin, which is represented by Aries energy, but at the same time compelled to plan thoroughly, take slow steps to write everything down, step by step planning, strategic planning, and the tension is actually productive, if you honor and respect both impulses, so both the need to start and both the need to plan, rather than just choosing one over the other. And the moon's quintile to Jupiter, which I'll go into more depth about later, adds an element of wise expansion, wise growth to this already potent mix. Jupiter in Cancer shows us that our hard work and courage projects will ultimately create greater emotional security and family stability. This aspect indicates that routines and systems you're building now, if you decide to do so, will have beneficial long-term consequences that extend beyond immediate personal gain. The combined lunar energies create what I call sustainable manifestation, the kind that doesn't just create quick wins but establishes foundations for lasting success. This is astrological energy that says build it right the first time, but don't let perfectionism prevent you from starting. The manifestation potential is enormous for anything requiring both vision and sustained effort over time. So now I'm just going to talk about the origins of the Beaver moon, its energies and seasonal wisdom in a bit of depth. So November's full moon earned its name from Native American and colonial American traditions, and it typically does always happen in November. Sometimes it could maybe happen in October or early December, but that's rare. So it marks the time when beavers were most actively preparing their winter lodges and when it was optimal to set beaver traps before the swamps and streams froze over. So this industrious, hard-working timing perfectly reflects the beavers' incredible work ethic and their ability to transform entire landscapes and environments through persistent, methodical effort. Positively, it's all about master planning. It's a natural time for creating detailed strategies and long-term plans that actually work. It's about improving our ability to assess what we need and systematically, acquire it, get it. So resource security, community building, focusing on creating structures, routines and systems that benefit not just yourself but your extended network. Energy that supports steady advancement rather than boom and burst cycles, so it's all about sustainable long-term progress, and it gives us the courage to try new approaches whilst maintaining practical wisdom about what works. So it wants us to sort of have protective innovation, newness. Negatively, the Beaver moon can make us too focus on preparation and we can become obsessive about it, and we can overplan and never actually begin the work. We can hoard resources, we can have difficulty trusting in abundance or sharing opportunities with others. We can get so absorbed in building that we lose sight of why we started, giving us that tunnel vision focus but in a negative way. We can sort of become isolated because of our defensive expansiveness by creating structures, routines and systems that protect but also prevent growth and connection. We can have workaholic tendencies, confusing constant activity with genuine progress, just doing for the sake of it, busying ourselves but actually not getting anywhere. So the best use of this energy is to start projects that require sustained effort, businesses, creative plans, health programs that are for the long term. Secure our foundations, financial planning, home improvement, skill development, everything like that secure what we need for the short term and long term. Build meaningful communities, establish support networks that will endure, last through changes and challenges. Create efficient systems, organize your life in ways that free up energy for what matters the most, and balance preparation with action. Plan thoroughly enough to succeed, but don't let planning become procrastination, so finding that balance between thinking and doing, right? Okay, so as I said, the Beaver moon influence on Aries creates what I call a warrior, fighter, architecture, the ability to build structures, routines, systems that serve our authentic self, whilst having the courage to defend and maintain our systems as we build them, right? And maintain and find and express our authentic self-expression. Instead of typical Aries impatience, we're getting sustained warrior energy that can see projects through to completion. This combination is particularly powerful for anyone who's been stuck in the planning phase of important life changes. The Beaver's methodical nature provides the structure, while Aries supplies the courage to actually begin. You may find yourself naturally creating realistic timelines for ambitious goals, or suddenly having the patience to develop skills properly rather than expecting instant mastery. The hard work and preparation aspect of the Beaver moon transforms how you approach releasing and letting go during this full moon. So rather than dramatic purging, you're encouraged to carefully examine what aspects of your old patterns might be recycled into new structures and routines and systems. So rather than taking apart what doesn't serve, it's all about conscious deconstruction. That's the buzzword for this super full moon, right? Preserving valuable materials, patterns, life lessons, ways of expressing yourself for future building projects for your future life and stuff like that, as well as integrating new ones. And perhaps most importantly, the Beaver moon influence makes sure that the courage you develop during this super full moon in Aries isn't just like for the moment, just for this super full moon, it comes and then it goes and then you see you bye. It's about integrating what you find during the day of the full moon, the night of the full moon, but also the 28 days afterwards, and continuing it as the months and years progress, right, into your daily practices and long-term planning. You're not having just a breakthrough, you're building the infrastructure, the systems, the routine to sustain that breakthrough over time. So remember that, right? So in terms of the super full Beaver moon and the aspects that happen, first we've got the moon making a quintile to Jupiter, and this allows us to combine Jupiter in Cancer's nurturing wisdom with the Beaver's practical building skills to create opportunities for projects that serve both our personal growth and our family, community, welfare, right, and health. Type orb, because it's 0.17%, it's separating but it's still tight, shows that we're in the perfect window for launching plans that require both courage and long-term commitment. So we should use this super full Beaver moon in Aries to trust that our authentic self-expression is ready to be expressed, right? Yeah. When we channel it through practical action, this can create lasting benefits for not only yourself but for everyone, right? The moon semi-square to Neptune highlights, puts a spotlight, and it's when the Beaver's practical nature becomes particularly valuable. Neptune's dreamy, sometimes delusive energy can lead to unrealistic planning or building castles in the air, ignoring red flags, not really planning. But the Beaver moon's influence provides the natural grounding for this aspect, right? So it allows us to tell the difference between workable dreams and impossible fantasies. So we can use this energy as an intuitive guide that can help us build, right? But the challenge is avoiding the temptation to escape into perfectionistic planning and superficial planning and idealistic planning, rather than actually beginning the work, right? Or just thinking about the work and not doing it. And as always with Neptune energy, it can always make us want to escape into too much Netflix and chilling, binge eating, taking too much drugs and alcohol as well. So we need to watch out for that. We have to use this energy to trust our intuition, to work with our imagination, but also make sure that these imaginations work in real life, through practical testing, actually doing what you think. And then if you can't do what you think, you can't do it day to day, then it's a no-go. Then we also have the moon making a sextile to the moon's north node. This is applying, and this again supports us building new routines, right? That not only serve our progress but serves collective progress as well, and it helps us to work hard and to do the things that will align us with our life purpose. And it gives us the go ahead to trust the impulse to build something lasting that serves both your authentic expression and humanity's advancement. So this is really, really good, right? Good energy that's giving us the go ahead to go forward. The moon also makes a square to the ascendant, and this brings tension between our emotional needs for independence and action, which is represented by the Aries moon, and how we present ourselves to others, right? Which is what the ascendant is all about. So it shows the potential disconnections between our internal emotional landscape and our external persona. And with the moon in fiery Aries squaring our ascendant, we may feel pulled between authentic emotional expression and maintaining appropriate social boundaries. So this energy gives us the opportunity to integrate our passionate emotions with our public image in more authentic ways. But negatively, it can add to the impulsiveness in our self-expression. It can add to the conflicts between our need for freedom and social expectations. So we should use this energy to release any artificial mass social personas that don't align with your genuine emotional nature, finding balanced ways to express your fiery emotions without overwhelming others. The sun makes a semi-square to Neptune, so Neptune again, bringing subtle friction between our conscious identity, represented by the sun, and our spiritual ideals and fantasies, represented by Neptune. So it can bring irritation and the need for adjustment change between our relationship focus side, which is represented by Libra energy, right, and our dreamy side, which is represented by Neptune. So we can, have tension between our need to please others and the need to, reach our spiritual ideals. And this energy supports us releasing illusions about relationships while maintaining our spiritual idealism. It challenges us to find a balance between seeing others clearly, which is represented by Libra, right, while maintaining compassion and spiritual connection, which is what Neptune brings to the table. So work with this energy by releasing relationship fantasies that don't serve your highest good. So the sun's trine to the moon's north node again brings a supportive connection between our conscious identity and our growth path. It allows us to align our relationship energy with the needs for our soul's movement forward, and it can bring harmony to our partnerships as well, allowing us to balance our need for growth with our relationships, as I said, releasing relationship patterns that no longer serve our highest development, and it also supports us growing in harmony in our relationships and finding relationships and social connections that align with our true self, releasing outdated relationship dynamics and being open to more evolved connections is what this energy wants us to do. The sun square to the ascendant also brings tension between our relationship focused identity and our self presentation, so our sense of self is really being highlighted under this super full Beaver moon, right? Another energy that really puts the spotlight on how we appear to others and who we truly are. We can feel torn between focusing on relationships and asserting our individual presence. It wants us to release imbalances between our relationship focus and self-assertion, finding ways to honour both our partnership needs and our personal presentation needs, and just, again, leaning into our authentic self, Okay, so now I'm going to talk about what a T-square is in astrology and the positives and negatives of a transiting T-square. So a T-square in astrology is when 3 or more planets. Normally some people count points. I will only count a point such as the moon's north node if it was like conjunct a planet like Venus at the same degree, something like that in a T-square. I wouldn't necessarily include it on its own. So yeah, a T-square is when 3 or more planets form a right angled triangle in the transit chart, and this configuration involves 2 planets being involved each other, creating tension, and a third planet squares both of the opposing planets, and this is why it's called like a T-square, because it looks like a T. And the positives of a transiting T-square include increased motivation for growth and change, opportunities for self-awareness and transformation, and the potential for breakthroughs in difficult situations. It can act as a catalyst for personal development and push us outside of our comfort zones. Negatively, we can struggle with decision making due to the conflicting energies. We can experience a heightened emotional intensity, leading to stress or anxiety and challenges in communication and our relationships. And it can also kind of bring eternal conflict to some of us as well, because of the external obstacles that come, or the internal thoughts of unresolved psychological, emotional and spiritual trauma that can come up. And dealing with these issues internally or externally that come up can require patience and resilience to overcome. So yeah, the T-square that happens between the Sun in Libra, Moon in Aries and Ascendant in Capricorn adds to this conflict, but positively it gives us the chance to structure our breakthrough, our changes, right? The Capricorn Ascendant is our focus point in this T-square, and it allows us to build more mature, responsible routines and systems and relationships that balance us being authentic and also meeting the needs that promote relationship harmony, right? And the Beaver's methodological approach to problem solving provides the perfect framework for resolving this tension through practical rather than dramatic confrontation. So this T-square allows us, yes, it's going to bring tension, but it allows us to face the tension and overcome the tension in a way that serves the greatest good, while also serving, who we authentically are. So now I'm going to talk about what a grand trine is in astrology, the positives and negatives of a transiting grand trine. So a grand trine in astrology is when 3 planets are in an equilateral triangle and they're each approximately 122 degrees apart. And this configuration creates a harmonious flow of energy between the 3 planets involved, enchanting their respective qualities. So positively, it can increase our creativity and productivity, and it can bring more emotional balance and stability into our life, especially in challenging times. So it's a nice, easy energy to work with. It can bring increased intuition and insight, so we can gain deeper insights into our life path and decisions, and this can help us make more informed choices. and just become more balanced and stable within as well. But negatively, we can lack motivation and complacency because, trying energy comes easy. It's harmonious, not challenging, and this can cause us to be passive and unmotivated in going after our goals. This is why a lot of individuals with a lot of trines in their chart, trine and harmonious aspects like sextiles, cannot use them because everything can come so easily. They're not aware and they can miss their opportunities, thinking they'll always come. There can also be an overemphasis on our comfort zone, and we can rely too heavily on what we know rather than newness, and this can make us be stagnant and miss opportunities. The grand trine between Saturn in Pisces, Mars in Scorpio, Neptune in Pisces and Jupiter in Cancer, again, allows us to be open to the hard work and brings deep emotional intelligence to ensure that we create routines or continue routines that serve our genuine healing and growth, whether it be our individual growth or relationship growth, right? It also allows us to understand how natural flow patterns resonate, how letting our emotions flow, and how doing this creates opportunities for us to work with natural cycles rather than going against them. So it just makes us aware of how sometimes we have to not fight life but flow with life, and how doing so can really bring the results that we want, rather than trying to manufacture the results by forcing things that are not meant to be, right? And then there's two other T-squares. So we've got the first with Jupiter, Venus and Pluto. So Jupiter's in Cancer, of course, Venus in Libra and Pluto's in Capricorn. And again, it allows us to bring relationship harmony and feel more abundant in our growth attention in our relationship as well. And it supports us nurturing our sensitivity and being fair, as well as transforming deeply how we think about ourselves and our relationships, and releasing attachments to possessions and outdated values and relationships as well. There's another T-square between Chiron, Jupiter and Venus, and again this brings tension between healing our individual wounds, nurturing emotional growth and maintaining relationship harmony. So again, it supports releasing relationship wounds that block our sense of abundance and security, so really good for letting go and working through our emotional issues, our relationship issues. A stellium in astrology refers to a powerful cluster of planets that are closely grouped together in the same sign, house or degree orb. So if a planet's in the 29th degree of Gemini, and then we've got one planet in the 7th degree of Cancer, because those planets, let's say Venus in the 29th degree of Gemini and Saturn in the 7th degree of Cancer, they can still be in a stellium because they are within a degree orb range, and that's how stellium can happen when one planet's in one sign and another's in another sign. That's because they're still within that 10 degree conjunction range that we need for stellium. So stellium can have positive and negative implications, like all things in life and astrology. So positively, a stellium increases the traits associated with the planets involved, the degree orbs involved, or the house involved, and creating a strong focus on those specific areas of our lives. It can signify intense determination, creativity, and give a deep sense of purpose in pursuing our goals, going after what we want. Negatively, it can bring challenges, a lot of challenges. It can amplify the negatives of all the planets, houses or degree orbs involved, leading to an overwhelming amount of energy in these areas, and this can cause stress because of the imbalance of, too much of one energy surging on you, and so we may feel more pressure to live up to high expectations, or struggle with integrating the different energies represented by the planets within a transiting stellium. There's a stellium between Mercury, Mars and Midheaven in Scorpio, and again it adds depth and intensity to our inner work, our release work, our inner child work as well, especially around financial matters and shared resources. It supports us cutting through illusions about material security and taking decisive action towards authentic growth and transformation. So, a transiting yard is also known as the finger of God in astrology, and this aspect is formed when two planets are sextile, so that's 60 degrees apart, and both of these planets make a quincunx, which is 150 degrees to a third planet. So two planets sextile, both of those planets make a quincunx to another third planet, or planets if that third planet is conjunct to another planet. So yeah, so this creates a narrow egg-elongated triangle shape in the transiting chart, and a transiting yod can increase our awareness of our purpose or calling. It can give us opportunities for growth and transformation, and it's a potent energy that really allows us to break free from old patterns that no longer serve you, and or habits, so it can act as a cosmic push towards self-discovery and personal development, and this can lead to a deeper understanding of your true path in life. It can bring about unexpected blessings or connections that push you towards your goals. But negatively, it can sometimes be overwhelming energy, confusing to understand all the push and pulls, because, the quincunx is a struggle, so you push and pull. You've got two planets that are like, yeah, we love each other, and then they make this quincunx to the third planet and they're not loving each other as much anymore, so it requires us to confront deep-seated fears and insecurities, and it can be challenging and emotionally draining. It can also, as I said, be confusing, leading to uncertainty and doubt about our choices, and which direction should we go, and all of that as well. And also, the challenges triggered by a transiting yod can disrupt our existing routines and our relationships, and it can just cause internal turbulence and changes. And it's essential to approach this energy with an open mind and a willingness to embrace change as resisting transformation, whatever it is that comes up, at the time of a transiting yod, whatever comes to your attention. You may be like, oh no, I don't want to change, but resisting the change can just lead to extended feelings of discomfort and stagnation, just staying in the same old routine. So the yod's like, okay, I know this thing has been comforting, or these things, and maybe you needed these things at one stage in your life, but now it's time to let go and move on to something new. So yeah, and as I said, there's a yard which is known as the finger of God in astrology, between Venus in Libra, Neptune in Pisces and Uranus in Taurus, and this is a 23% orb, and this allows us to change our routines and our values, especially our relationship values, and approach resources with a growth mindset, or repair any trouble we have with sharing resources or using our own resources, finding practical, innovative ways to express our changes in our daily life, and to plan long term on how we can bring more sort of like growth and building and long term planning into our decision making process. So it's just supporting the super full Beaver moon in Aries energy more, so it's the green light for change, right? That's what I'm trying to say. So now I'm going to talk about the Sabian symbols that are involved in this super full Beaver moon and how they influence, because I like to layers. I like to look at layers, strip back layers, and holistically look at things, right? So the sun is in the 20th degree of Libra, and as the Sabian symbol, a Jewish rabbi, and it rules the Calyx minor in the body, and it brings ancient wisdom, the chance to allow it to guide us when we're communicating community building and have patient understanding of the different needs when we're trying to build or understand communities. Then we have the moon into 20th degree of Aries, and it has the same symbology, a young girl feeding birds in winter, and the part of body ruled by this symbol is the hired bone, and this is all about being innocent with our generosity and allowing ourselves to provide for ourselves through creating the right routines and checklists during challenging times that winter can bring, right? Neptune is in the 6th degree of Pisces. This is the Sabian symbol, is officers on dress parade, and it rules the left cubal bone, and it's all about spiritual discipline and how this can create a orderly, a routine sort of progress forward if we, sort of like start or continue our spiritual practice. Jupiter is in the 1st degree of Cancer, has the Sabian symbol, sailor, ready to hoist, put up a new flag to replace the old one. So it brings new emotional frequencies as we be courageous as we deal with life challenges, and this rules the 6th rib in the human body. And the North Node is in the 21st degrees of Aquarius and has the Sabian symbol, a woman disappointed and disillusioned. It rules the spinal nervous system, and it reminds us that growth, evolution requires us to let go of the old, right? Especially old expectations on how we should be, how life should be, how relationships should be, and having honest discussions and doing the planning to get to where we really want to go. We may have had life experiences that has made us change what we wanted like 5 years ago, but we could still be working towards what we think we want, because we haven't asked ourselves, is this what we still want? Is this what I still want right now? So this is all about asking yourself, do I still want the things I think that I want, So in terms of our emotional health, the symbols work together beautifully with Beaver energy to create emotional resilience through practical service. The young girl's innocent generosity, which is where the Aries moon is, right, becomes sustainable through the rabbi's wisdom, where the Libra sun is, and the Beaver's methodical approach to caring for community by planning, spending time to build what it needs, right? So it's reminding us to spend time to build what we need. And the disappointed woman, represented by the North Node, wants us to grow and brings our attention to the necessary emotional growth that we need to overcome and move forward in life, learning that genuine service requires both open hearts and practical boundaries. In terms of spiritual health, it reminds us the progression from the sailor putting up new flags, represented by Jupiter, right, to the officers on parade. Neptune, Sabian symbol, reflects the Beaver's natural spiritual development pattern, first having the courage to explore new frequencies, then creating disciplined practices that, sustain spiritual growth. The rabbi's wisdom provides the foundational teachings that inform both individual and community spiritual development. In terms of physical health, the body parts tell a story particularly relevant to Beaver energy. The high bone, which speaks and expression, rules that in our human body. The calyx minor, which is all about filtering and purification, and the spinal nervous system, which represents our communication and structure, routine, our systems, right, all relate to building healthy foundations, healthy habits for authentic expression. And it wants us to remind us to pay attention to our throat, our kidneys, our nervous system, as these areas support long-term self-expression. So eating the right foods, doing the right exercise to make sure our throat and kidneys and nervous system health are in balance, right? Psychologically, the symbols collectively confront the balance between individual authenticity and community responsibility, exactly what Beavers master through their building activities. The combination shows that psychological health comes from finding sustainable ways to serve others whilst maintaining personal integrity and boundaries. So in terms of the esoteric meanings, together these symbols speak to spiritual leadership through long-term service, the Beaver's way of creating lasting change change through methodical, practical action, shows that true wisdom comes from maintaining an open heart, represented by the feeding the birds in the winter. So feeding, even though things are slowed down, planting those seeds, changing those habits, so when the spring and the summer and the autumn comes, you're going into your 3rd, 6th and 9th month of these habits, rather than thinking, I'll just wait until January or to the spring to start, So it's about using good judgment, represented by the rabbi, and building structures, routines and systems that last, which is represented by the Beaver inference of the super full moon in Aries, right? But negatively, esoterically, the sidereal side involves spiritual bypassing through compulsive helping, inflexible adherence, sticking to traditional routines, systems and structures from a heartless perspective, and becoming disillusioned when spiritual practices don't immediately transform external circumstances. There's also a risk of building a spiritual ego through constant activity rather than genuine service. So, in terms of the lunar magic, work with these symbols by combining innocent generosity with ancient wisdom and Beaver-like persistence. Keep on going after each failure. Failure means you're trying, right? It doesn't mean give up. It means to think about what you need to change. So when you try your next attempt, you do it more better. And then when you fail there, which is just natural, sometimes success takes 10, 15, 20, 25 years, right? Lifetimes for some of us, that is the reality of what, this is a spiritual podcast, so yeah. So it's about creating rituals that honor, respect both your instinctive, giving nature and your need for long-term practices, using this super full Beaver moon in Aries to release disappointment about spiritual progress while building practical frameworks for continued growth. So I'm going to talk a bit more about the rituals you should use with this Beaver moon energy. So you can create feeding rituals, literally or metaphorically, that can be sustained over time rather than one-off dramatic gestures. Study wisdom teachings whilst engaging in practical building or crafting activities, as I said, like candles for guidance. Then create detailed plans for service projects that align with your authentic nature and can be maintained long term. So in terms of the feeding rituals, sometimes we can just go in a diet, right, for a week or two, but how about slowly, I've done this with myself, slowly building healthy eating into your life day by day, making small steps week by week, rather than quick changes in a week or two that last for a month or two, and then, you never do them for the rest of the year. It's all about slow and steady progress, right? Also, balance spontaneous acts of kindness with structured spiritual practice that includes practical service elements. Allow yourself to feel disappointed about unmet expectations, then consciously channel that energy into building more realistic and long-term approaches to personal and spiritual development. In terms of, looking after your body on a deeper level, focus on throat chakra work through sustained practice, singing, chanting, or consistent, honest communication rather than dramatic breakthroughs. Support kidney function with steady hydration and regular emotional processing practices. Strengthen your nervous system through consistent grounding activities and boundaries that protect your energy whilst allowing authentic expression over time. And the Beaver moon energy affects all these systems in our body from the throat, encouraging sustainable authentic expression, steady emotional processing and nervous system regulation through constant practices and reliable boundaries rather than crisis management. So again, it's putting a focus on, rather than always, just reacting to the world, being proactive, taking it to the world, planning for the good, the bad and the ugly sort of thing, rather than just like, oh my gosh, when the crisis happens, what am I going to do? Already having a crisis plan, so when the crisis comes, the unknown comes, how to deal with it better. So ultimately, this super full Beaver moon is providing the framework for long-term spiritual warriorship, the young girl's heart, the rabbi's wisdom, the sailor's adaptability, flexibility, the officer's discipline, and the woman's realistic expectations all contribute to building lasting spiritual practices rather than just fleeting ones, right? The full moon supports releasing naive expectations about spiritual and life in general, right, whilst building practical frameworks from authentic service. The symbols encourage letting go of unsustainable spiritual practices, spiritual practices that are just delusional. They don't, pan out in long-term real-world application and stuff like that, in favour of wisdom-guided authenticity that can be maintained through life's inevitable challenges, as I said earlier. So, in terms of the karmic lessons, the super for Beaver, Moon in Aries can carry past life memories of building communities, creating lasting routines, and learning the balance between individual initiative and collective welfare. So doing what you want, going after your own success, capitalism at its finest, but also, the tension between wanting to look after others, nurture others, and help others to find their success as well. And I've noticed over the years that Beaver moons often trigger cellular memories of times when we've built something lasting and beneficial, or when our building efforts were destroyed or undermined. The karmic lessons of this cycle are many. On the positive, you're being called to reclaim your role as a spiritual architect, someone who can envision authentic change and then build the structures, routines and systems necessary to sustain it right, to make it last. There's likely a soul contract here about learning that true revolution happens through persistent, methodical transformation rather than dramatic upheaval. The lesson is that lasting change requires both the courage to begin, Aries, and the wisdom to build properly, Beaver. The negative karmic patterns surfacing over this time might include memories of having your building efforts sabotaged, experiences of being forced to construct things that didn't align with your values, or past lives where you choose immediate gratification over building lasting foundations. You may find yourself dealing with inherited family patterns around work ethic, the value of persistent effort, or beliefs about whether it's safe to build something that lasts. My advice is that the super full Beaver moon in Aries is asking you to step into your role as a conscious community builder. Past life memories of, you may have dreams of construction projects, pioneering settlements, or situations where you needed to balance individual vision with collective needs. Pay attention to these. They're showing you the master builder skills you carried through multiple lifetimes. The collective karma relates to humanity's need for sustainable systems and routines that support both individual authenticity and community welfare. We're being called to build new routines, whether they be social, economic or spiritual, that can withstand, withstand, keep up with, are strong, right, and withstand challenges while serving everybody's highest good. And it's calling forward the spiritual engineers and architects among us, and soul contracts activated during this time involve taking on projects or roles that require long-term commitment and the ability to see long-term vision through to practical completion. And it wants us to make sure that these aren't just inspired ideas but actual structures and routines and systems that can serve future generations, and that the timing now is perfect for beginning plans that align with your authentic self and serve the collective good. So it's not about the short-term gratification, it's about the long-term planning systems and routines that not only sustain your life or the people alive now lives, but the generations to come as well. So in terms of working with this energy, as I said earlier, it's all about conscious deconstruction and real building. It's not about letting go of what doesn't serve you. It's asking us to carefully dismantle outdated patterns for relationship behavior patterns while salvaging, keeping hold of the useful materials, the useful habits and relationships that we've accumulated for new construction. So ask yourself what needs releasing. Impulsive approaches that create unsustainable results and perfectionist planning that prevents action, resource hoarding behaviours, and any patterns that prioritise quick fixes over lasting solutions are what we need to let go of. In terms of ritual work, I recommend, as I said, combines fire energy with earth-based building activities, so creating release ceremonies where you write limiting beliefs on paper and burn them, maybe using the acids to fertilise soil, as I said, where you plant something meaningful, herbs for healing, flowers for beauty, or vegetables for sustenance to feed you, right? As I said, building or crafting activities, creating vision boards with timelines, organising your workspace for productivity, or starting a new project that has, meaning to you and, requires your long-term dedication. Concentrating on projects that require both courage and sustained commitment, starting businesses, building homes, developing skills, creating art that lasts, or establishing communities, making sure that Aries initiatives have staying power, setting intentions around building structures and routines and systems that serve your authentic self whilst benefiting others as well. Okay, so now I'm just going to give zodiac guidance for each of the 12 sun, moon and rising signs. So Aries, the Beaver moon in your sign transforms your natural pioneering spirit into long-term leadership abilities. Use this energy to begin projects that require both courage and long-term commitment. Release impulsive approaches and manifest the patience to build your vision properly. The Beaver influence makes sure your initiatives have a lasting impact rather than burning out quickly. Taurus, fellow Earth appreciator, the Beaver energy resonates deeply with your natural building instincts. This fiery full moon provides the courage to begin construction projects you've been planning. Focus on releasing perfectionist delays and manifesting the confidence to start building. Even if conditions aren't perfect, your practical skills get astrological amplification for long-lasting achievement, so use that right. Gemini, your communication skills become powerful. Building tools, use this super full Beaver moon in Aries to establish long-term learning projects or communication systems that originate from and align with your long-term goals. Release scattered unfocused energy and manifest focused application of your diverse interest into concrete lasting achievements. So Cancer, with Jupiter in your sign, you're positioned to build emotional security through courageous action. Release the tendency to overprotect and manifest the confidence to create lasting structures, routines and systems that support both your emotional needs and your authentic self-expression. Your nurturing abilities become foundation building superpowers. Leo, this combination of fire and earth energy supports building creative projects that showcase your talents over the long term. Release fears about sustained effort diminishing your creative spontaneity and manifest the understanding that true artistic legacy requires both inspiration and methodical development. Your natural leadership gets building tools for lasting impact. Virgo, the Beaver energy feels absolutely natural to your methodical, service-orientated nature. The Aries fire moon provides the courage to begin perfecting systems, structures and routines that you've been analysing. Release over-analysis paralysis and manifest the confidence to start building, knowing you can perfect as you go. Your attention to detail becomes architectural mastery. Libra, with the sun in your sign opposing this powerful Aries moon, you're experiencing the full tension between individual building projects and collaborative harmony. The super full Beaver moon asks you to balance your natural diplomatic conflict resolution, vibe management with long-term effort towards authentic goals. Release the need for everyone's approval before building what serves your genuine values. Scorpio, your natural transformation abilities align perfectly with the Beaver's rebuilding instincts. The Grand Trine involves Mars in your sign, and this provides emotional depth to support whatever you're building right now. Use this super full Beaver moon in Aries to release destructive patterns and manifest regenerative building projects that transform not just your life but your entire environment. Sagittarius, this fire to fire energy with earth stability feels both familiar and grounding to your adventurous spirit. The super full Beaver moon supports building the practical structures, routines, systems needed to support your philosophical adventures, and teaching abilities release the fear that building foundations will limit your freedom. Proper structures, routines and systems actually enable you to explore more and do better, right? Do not fear foundations and routines. They can be your friend, they are your friend. Capricorn, as you know, your energy, the ascendant being there, is the focal of the major T-square and this super full being the moon. You're being called to provide mature, practical solutions that balance pioneering vision with sustainable building. The Beaver energy resonates perfectly with your natural building abilities. Release inflexible control and manifest flexible structures, routines and systems that can adapt whilst maintaining their essential integrity and purpose. Aquarius, the North Node in your sign shows the super full Beaver moon in Aries directly supports your soul's evolution, its growth towards innovative community building. Release outdated expectations about how progress should happen and manifest revolutionary approaches to creating lasting routines that serve collective advancement whilst honouring and respecting your individual authenticity. Pisces, this earth and fire energy might feel intensely wild at the start, but it's offering you the practical tools to build your dreams into reality. With Neptune and Saturn both in your sign, release victim consciousness and manifest spiritual fighter energy that can create lasting routines for healing and compassion in your life. And your intuitive wisdom can become architectural guidance for building better worlds right now. So all in all, the super full Beaver moon in Aries is all about building authentic self-expression into lasting practical structures, routines and systems that serve both your individual growth and collective welfare. The key themes around releasing impulsive, unsustainable approaches while manifesting hard-working courage that can see important projects through to completion, creating long-lasting change, right? And the Beaver influence transforms typical Aries fire into long-term building energy that creates lasting legacy rather than temporary drama. The manifestation opportunities during this lunar phase are extraordinary for anything requiring both vision and long-term commitment, whether you're launching businesses, building homes, developing skills, creating artistic works or establishing communities. This super full Beaver moon in Aries provides both the initial spark, the vibe, the trigger and the methodical persistence needed to build dreams into reality. The astrological message is clear. It's time to stop just talking about your vision and start building it properly. This is your astrological invitation to become a spiritual architect, a builder, someone who can envision authentic change and then create the practical structures, routines, systems necessary to sustain it. The world needs your unique combination of courage and wisdom. Trust the vision, honour, respect the process, and remember that the most powerful revelations and revolutions happen through persistent, methodical transformation rather than dramatic upheaval, chaos, change, right? So in terms of questions you can ask yourself to help you with your self-reflection at the time of this super full Beaver moon on the 5th of November, you can ask yourself, what aspects of my genuine self have I been afraid to build into more permanent routines in my life, and how can I begin creating lasting foundations that support these lasting, authentic qualities. You can ask, where have I been using my energy for dramatic gestures or quick fixes instead of channeling my courage into building something that will serve me and others over the long term? In terms of resource wisdom, you can ask yourself, how can I better assess which opportunities, relationships and projects deserve my long-term investment versus those that drain my resources and time and energy without providing lasting value? In terms of community building, you can ask yourself, in what ways is my soul calling me to create systems and routines or communities that serve both my authentic expression and the collective good, and what practical steps can I take to begin this building process? So yeah, that's the end of this special on the super full Beaver moon in Aries on the 5th of November at 1:20 p.m. I'm Amani, your holistic astrological karmic life coach, and it's been a pleasure doing this in-depth analysis for you. So yeah, take care and see you next time.